My name is Nina Lawson. I'm 29 years old and 3 months ago, I sat in a police interrogation room being accused of embezzling $847,000 from the company I helped build. The detective slid a folder across the table. Inside were bank statements with my signature, transfer authorizations I'd never seen, and emails I never wrote. Your business partner already gave his statement, he said. He's cooperating fully. That's when I understood. Blake Winters, the man I'd trusted for 6 years, the man I'd called my best friend, had set me up perfectly. But what the detective didn't know was that I'd been recording everything for the past 2 months. Before I tell you how I proved my innocence and destroyed his life, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. This story gets wild. Let me take you back 6 years to where this all began. I met Blake at a tech startup conference in Austin. I was 23. Fresh out of college with a computer science degree and $30,000 in student debt. He was 26, charismatic, and had just sold his first app for a modest profit. We hit it off immediately. He had the business skills. I had the technical knowledge. Within 3 months, we'd formed DataShield Solutions, a cybersecurity company focused on protecting small businesses from data breaches. We started in my 1-bedroom apartment, working 16-hour days, living on ramen and coffee. Blake handled clients and sales. I built the software. Our first year we made $200,000 in revenue. Second year $580,000. By year 3 we had 12 employees and were pulling in over $1 million annually. Blake became more than a business partner. He was at my mom's birthday dinner. I was at his family's Thanksgiving. When my dad died suddenly in year 4, Blake was the one who held me while I cried in the office parking lot. He gave me 2 weeks off, handled everything, told me not to worry about work. Family first always, he said. I believed him. I trusted him completely. That's why I never questioned the new financial software he wanted to implement. It'll streamline everything, he explained. Make accounting easier for both of us. I was too busy building our new security platform to pay attention to back-end paperwork. I signed whatever he put in front of me. That was my first mistake. Year 5, DataShield Solutions exploded. We landed a contract with a major retail chain worth $2.3 million. We moved into a real office building, hired 20 more employees, and started planning expansion into 3 new states. Blake insisted we needed a proper corporate structure. We need to protect our assets, he said during a meeting with lawyers. He'd arranged everything. New LLC paperwork, updated banking authorizations, revised partnership agreements. The lawyer, a friend of Blake's family, walked me through documents that seemed standard. I signed everything. Blake smiled and clapped my shoulder. We're really doing this, Nina. We're going to be huge. I had no idea I just signed away half my protection. The paperwork gave Blake sole authority over certain financial decisions. Things started feeling wrong 6 months ago. Small things at first. Blake took calls in private more often. He'd close his laptop when I entered his office. When I asked about quarterly numbers, he'd say, "All good, don't worry. Focus on the tech side." But I noticed our accounts receivable was growing. Clients who always paid on time were suddenly 60-90 days overdue. When I mentioned it, Blake waved it off. Just slow corporate bureaucracy. The money's coming. Then our head of HR, Vanessa Cole, came to me quietly one afternoon. "Nina, I need to show you something." She pulled up payroll records. 3 employees we didn't have were receiving monthly salaries. When I confronted Blake, he laughed. "Oh man, those are contractors working remotely. I forgot to update their status in the system." I wanted to believe him. He was my best friend. But Vanessa's worried face stayed with me. That weekend, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into our company banking portal using my credentials. What I found made my stomach drop. Over the past 8 months, there had been 47 wire transfers to accounts I didn't recognize. Amounts ranging from $5,000 to $85,000. Total, $847,000. Every transfer had authorization signatures. Except I'd never signed them. I stared at my screen for 2 hours, my hands shaking. Someone had forged my signatures on 47 different documents. There was only one person with access to do that. Blake. I didn't confront him. Not yet. I needed proof. The next morning I called my college roommate, Jordan Hayes. She was a forensic accountant for a firm in Denver. I sent her everything I'd found. She called me back 3 hours later. Nina, this is serious. Someone's been systematically draining your company and making it look like you're responsible. She walked me through the pattern. The fake contractors were receiving payments to offshore accounts. The transfers were timed to coincide with when I was traveling or on vacation, but the authorization timestamps showed I'd supposedly approved them from my office computer. Whoever did this has access to your digital signature and knows your schedule intimately, Jordan said. This is premeditated fraud. Felt sick. Can you help me document everything? Already started, she replied. I needed hard evidence before going to authorities. For the next 6 weeks I played along. I smiled at Blake during meetings. I laughed at his jokes. I acted like everything was normal. But I was recording everything. Every conversation. Every meeting. Every interaction. I installed monitoring software on my work computer to track who was accessing what. I backed up every file to a secure cloud storage Blake didn't know about. And I waited. Jordan worked in the background, building a forensic accounting report that tracked every fraudulent transaction back to its source. We discovered Blake had created the shell companies receiving the money. The fake contractors were aliases. The offshore accounts eventually funneled to a single private account. 2 months into my investigation, Blake made his move. He called an emergency board meeting. We didn't have a traditional board, just Blake, myself, and our company lawyer Keith Patterson. The same lawyer who'd helped set up our LLC structure. Blake's family friend. I should have known. Nina, we need to talk about some financial irregularities Keith discovered, Blake said, his face serious. Keith slid a folder across the table. Inside were the same documents I'd been investigating. The wire transfers, the fake contractors, all of it. These transactions all have your authorization, Keith said carefully. Can you explain them? I looked at Blake. His expression was perfectly concerned, perfectly innocent. This was it. The setup. The betrayal. I've never seen these before, I said calmly. Blake's eyebrow twitched. Just slightly. Nina, your signature is on every authorization form. Keith pulled out the documents. They look perfect. My signature, my digital authorization codes. I think someone may have forged these, I said, watching Blake's face. That's a serious accusation, Keith replied. Do you have any evidence? Not yet, I lied. But I'd like to bring in an independent forensic accountant to review everything. Blake shifted in his seat. Nina, that seems extreme. Maybe you just forgot. You've been stressed lately. I haven't been stressed, I said quietly. And I didn't authorize these transactions. The meeting ended awkwardly. Keith said he'd look into it. Blake avoided my eyes. I knew what was coming next. 3 days later, the police showed up at my apartment at 6 a.m. 2 detectives, Frank Costello and Amy Richardson. They had a warrant for my arrest on charges of embezzlement and wire fraud. You have the right to remain silent, Detective Costello said as he put handcuffs on my wrists. My neighbors watched from their doorways as they led me to their car. At the station they took my fingerprints, my photo, my phone. Then they put me in an interrogation room and left me there for 4 hours. When Detective Costello finally returned, he had that folder. The one with all my crimes, documented perfectly. Your business partner came forward yesterday, he said. Blake Winters. He's been very cooperative. Of course he had. This was his endgame. Blake discovered the discrepancies and reported them immediately, Costello continued. He's provided full access to company records. He seems very concerned about you. I almost laughed. The performance was perfect. He said you've been acting erratic lately. Said your father's death hit you hard. Said he's been worried about your mental state. They were painting me as unstable, grief-stricken, someone who might make bad decisions. It was brilliant, really. Blake had thought of everything. I didn't steal anything, I said. Then how do you explain these? He spread out the transfer authorizations. 47 documents with my perfect signature. I'd like to call my lawyer, I said. Costello nodded. Smart move. You're going to need one. I called the one person I knew could help. Sienna Grant. She was a defense attorney I'd met at a networking event 2 years ago. We'd stayed in touch, occasionally meeting for coffee. She was sharp, ruthless, and had a reputation for destroying prosecutors. She arrived at the police station within an hour. Don't say anything else, she told me immediately. Then she turned to the detectives. Unless you're charging my client right now, we're leaving. They didn't have enough to hold me yet. Just enough to scare me. As we left the station, Sienna pulled me aside. Tell me everything. And I mean everything. We sat in her car for 3 hours while I explained the whole situation. The 6 years with Blake, the trust, the financial discoveries, my investigation. Do you have proof? Sienna asked. Everything, I said. Forensic accounting reports, computer logs showing who actually accessed the authorization system, recordings of conversations. Her eyes widened. Recordings. Every interaction with Blake for the past 2 months. I pulled out my phone and showed her the backup files. Voice recordings, video from my laptop camera during meetings, everything. Sienna was quiet for a long moment. Nina, this is good. This is really good. But we need to be strategic. If we show our hand too early, they'll find ways to discredit it. So what do? We let Blake think he's winning. We let the police investigation continue. And we build an airtight case that doesn't just prove your innocence. It destroys him completely. The next 2 weeks were the hardest of my life. Blake froze me out of DataShield completely. Changed the locks, changed the passwords. Told employees I was under investigation and not allowed on premises. Some employees reached out to me privately. They didn't believe I'd stolen anything. But most stayed silent, scared for their jobs. Understood. Meanwhile, Blake gave interviews to local tech blogs. It's heartbreaking when someone you trust betrays you, he said in one article. But we have to do what's right. He was playing the victim perfectly. The wronged business partner who'd discovered his friend's crimes. Social media picked it up. People who didn't know me called me a thief. Former clients quietly distanced themselves. I watched my reputation crumble while Blake rebuilt his as the ethical entrepreneur who'd stopped a criminal. But while Blake was giving interviews, Jordan was finishing her forensic report. And it was devastating. She'd traced every dollar. The shell companies were registered to Blake using forged documents. The offshore accounts had been opened using fake IDs with my name but Blake's photo. The authorization signatures were created using software Blake had purchased 6 months before the first fraudulent transfer. He planned this for at least 8 months, Jordan told me. Probably longer. He set up the infrastructure, created the paper trail, then executed it while making sure every piece of evidence pointed to you. Why? Asked. Why would he do this? The offshore account has $680,000 in it. The rest probably went to setup costs and covering tracks. He was going to take the money, let you take the fall, and keep the company. Sienna filed a motion to access all company financial records. Blake's lawyer fought it, but the judge granted our request. Discovery was about to get interesting. Meanwhile, Detective Costello called me in for another interview. Sienna came with me. We have new information, Costello said. Blake provided us with emails you allegedly sent discussing the transfers. He showed me printed emails from my company account. Messages about moving money, covering tracks, creating fake vendors. They were detailed, specific, incriminating, and completely fabricated. I never sent these, I said. The metadata says otherwise, Detective Richardson replied. Your IP address, your computer ID, Sent from your email during business hours. I looked at Sienna. She nodded slightly. Time to play our card. Detective, I'd like to provide some information that might be relevant to your investigation. Sienna pulled out a laptop. My client has been conducting her own investigation for the past 3 months. With her permission, I'm going to show you what she found. For the next hour we walked them through everything. The forensic accounting report showing the shell companies were Blake's. The computer logs proving someone had remotely accessed my authorization credentials. The software purchase records showing Blake bought digital signature forgery tools. The offshore account trail. Everything. Costello's expression changed as we presented each piece of evidence. You've been investigating this for 3 months. Since I discovered the discrepancies, I said. I knew something was wrong. I just didn't want to believe it was Blake. Why didn't you come forward immediately? Richardson asked. Because I needed proof. And I was afraid no one would believe me. These recordings, Costello said, pointing to the audio files. Are these legal? Sienna nodded. Texas is a one-party consent state. As long as one person in the conversation knows they're being recorded, it's legal. Nina was that person. Costello and Richardson exchanged looks. We need to verify all of this, Costello said. Of course, Sienna replied. We have the original forensic accountant's report, the original computer logs, everything documented by licensed professionals. We're happy to provide access to all of it. And Blake Winters asked, what happens now? Costello stood up. Now we start looking at him very carefully. Don't leave town, Ms. Lawson. Either of you. As we left, Sienna squeezed my arm. They believe you. I could see it. What happens next? They investigate Blake. And when they're ready, they'll arrest him instead. Took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of silence while the police verified everything we'd provided. During that time, Blake kept running DataShield like nothing was wrong. He posted on social media about company growth. He attended networking events. He played the successful entrepreneur perfectly. He had no idea what was coming. On a Thursday morning, Detective Costello and 4 other officers showed up at the DataShield office with a warrant. They arrested Blake in front of the entire staff. Charged him with embezzlement, wire fraud, identity theft, and forgery. The look on his face when they put handcuffs on him was something I'll never forget. A genuine shock. He'd really believed he'd gotten away with it. Vanessa called me immediately. Nina, they arrested Blake. The police took all his computers and files. What's happening? The truth is happening, I said. The story broke that afternoon. Tech entrepreneur arrested for elaborate fraud scheme against business partner. The same blogs that had praised Blake for his ethics now reported his arrest. The details came out slowly. The fake companies, the forged signatures, the $680,000 in an offshore account. Blake's lawyer tried to spin it. These are allegations. My client maintains his innocence. But the evidence was overwhelming. The forensic report. The computer logs. The recordings where Blake discussed hiding transactions from me. The software purchases. All of it documented perfectly. Blake's preliminary hearing was set for 3 weeks later. Sienna assured me the district attorney was building a case that would put him away for years. Federal charges carry serious time, she said. Wire fraud alone is 20 years maximum. They're going for all of it. The company was a mess. Employees were confused and scared. Clients were pulling contracts. Our reputation was destroyed. But I was still a 50% owner. The court had frozen Blake's assets and shares pending trial. I had a choice to make. Walk away or fight to save what we'd built. I called an emergency staff meeting. 32 employees crowded into the conference room. They looked at me with uncertainty. I know the past few weeks have been difficult, I started. I know many of you didn't know who to believe. I understand that. But I want you to know the truth. I spent an hour explaining everything. Not the legal details, just the reality. Blake had stolen from the company. I discovered it. I'd gathered evidence. And now he was facing justice. I'm not going to lie to you. This company might not survive. But if you're willing to stay and fight, I'll fight with you. Vanessa stood up first. I'm in. Then others. One by one. Not everyone. 5 employees left. But 27 stayed. We spent the next month rebuilding. I brought in a new financial officer to clean up the books. We contacted every client, explained the situation honestly, and asked for a chance to prove ourselves. Some said no. But most stayed. They appreciated the honesty. Blake's trial started 6 months after his arrest. Sienna attended with me every day. The prosecution presented our evidence piece by piece. Jordan testified about the forensic accounting. Computer experts testified about the forged digital signatures. I testified about the 6 years of friendship and trust. The betrayal. The recordings played in court. Blake's voice discussing hiding money. Creating fake contractors. Making everything look like my fault. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty. On all counts. Embezzlement, wire fraud, identity theft, forgery. The judge sentenced him to 12 years in federal prison and ordered him to pay back every dollar he'd stolen, plus damages. As they led him away, Blake looked at me once. Not with anger. With something else. Regret maybe. Or just the realization that he'd destroyed everything for money he'd never get to spend. I didn't feel victorious. Just tired. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. How do you feel about the verdict? Relieved, I said honestly. Ready to move forward. What's next for DataShield Solutions? Took a breath. We're rebuilding. Stronger than before. With integrity at our foundation. That night, Vanessa organized a celebration at the office. Just the team. People who'd stayed. Who'd believed in me. To new beginnings, she toasted. We clinked glasses. And for the first time in months I felt like I could breathe. That was 8 months ago. Today, DataShield Solutions has 40 employees. We've landed 3 new major contracts. Our revenue is back to pre-scandal levels. I renamed the company last month. Trust Shield Security. A reminder that trust is everything. I bought out Blake's shares through the court settlement. I'm the sole owner now. And I've implemented transparent financial systems where every transaction requires multiple verifications. I'll never be that vulnerable again. People ask me how I survived the betrayal. How I kept going when my best friend tried to destroy me. The truth. I didn't have a choice. I could let him win or fight back. If you're reading this and you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, I need you to know something. You're not crazy. You're not paranoid. Trust your instincts. Document everything. And never stop fighting for the truth. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Drop a comment about where you're from. And remember, the people closest to you can hurt you the most. But they can't break you unless you let them.